So we're here going over a few of my favorite tips on how to choose a build that is actually right for you. We put a lot of hours into any given class or character that we play in RPGs. And if we choose incorrectly, we generally are forced or stuck with a build we don't enjoy with gameplay that is just not that exciting. And we feel often that we don't want to lose what we just built, but we also feel like we need to start over. And so I'm going to walk through the tips to make sure that doesn't happen to you and sidestep one of the biggest issues that people actually face when they're following builds. So the very first thing we want to do in this entire thing is, it seems obvious, but we want to check our class. One of the best ways to do is actually come into the game and kind of look over here, like in Diablo 4 in particular. We are going to go over and you're going to look at the different things. Read through that and see, hey, is that the gameplay that I want? If you're returning, this also can be helpful. Maybe you're just like, hey, I don't know what I really want to play next. I'm trying to decide between a few. Reading these can kind of help you set that up, because the first decision we're going to obviously make is what class. Everything that we do from here on is going to kind of stem from that. Now, if you're saying, hey, Joel, I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know if I want to choose this one or this one. Pick the one that you think is most likely. You can run through the process multiple times or even run it against each other, which actually be helpful in picking a good build regardless of what class that you're looking at. But we're going to pick one right now just to start. So for me, I've been thinking a lot about doing a Necro build. I've done Necro Bone Spear, I've done Necro Blood, but I haven't done a Necro that actually is a minion build. Every time I said I was going to, I ended up not, because it really just fell apart very fast. The builds just weren't right there, but I think it might be at a place in the game where finally a minion build is going to do well. So I'm choosing the Necro, and that's going to set us up for everything that we're doing next. So the very next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to jump and look at actual tier list over at Maxroll. Okay, so here we are on Maxroll. We're just going to jump in. We're going to click on Diablo 4 up here at the top. We are then going to go to tier list. So what we'll notice, there's a number of tier lists, but the ones we're most concerned with are actually the build tier list, which are these right here: endgame, speed farming, leveling, and nightmare dungeon. So what I'm generally going to recommend for whoever you are is that you pick the endgame tier list, because that is actually designed for the most coverage for all endgame items. You may later want to come back and do nightmare dungeon pushes where you're trying to get the nightmare dungeon 100 and may want to look at a different build. But this is going to be the one recommended. This is kind of our early marker we're going to be aiming towards, and we're going to get to a lot sooner. If you choose like, hey, I'm doing nightmare dungeon, just know that the nightmare dungeon push is an end game. Like, that's, say that there was an early game, a mid game, and an end game. That would be the latest thing that you're doing. So it'd be a while before you even are at that point. And a lot of the stuff it usually needs and the perfect rolls you need on each of the items is just a little tough to get. So as a better marker that actually allow us in like World Tier 3 to start seeing our build come to live, and even World Tier 4 kind of finish up, is really going to be end game tier list. So we're going to click on here. So now that we know our class, we are going to come here and actually look at the tier list. Here's the end game tier list. We're going to look down and see where our actual class lies. So if you see an S tier, this is kind of what we're aiming for as the most powerful. They'll have the best clears. They'll be able to do a lot of the material easily. There is some of the classes that aren't on this S tier at all. So I am looking for a Necro, but here's Bone Spear, but I'm looking for a minion Necro. So if I go down here, I actually only have this one choice, Shadow Summoner Necro, and that's an A tier. So it's not even top of the top, but it has these double arrows here, which means it's moved up. So I really have one choice. If I'm doing a Necro and I want to do minion and I don't want to do blood, or I don't want to do bone, then I kind of have this one choice, and we'll jump in and look at that. What you're going to want to do, let's say that you chose Rogue in this particular example. Rogue has 4 that are in the upper tier list. You're going to want to choose, pretty much get to 2 or 3, because we don't want to just kind of choose in the dark. We don't like, oh, that one sounds good, so I'll pick that one, I'm done. We want to kind of compare a few if we can. So my choices are limited. I am pretty set to the Necro. I might check out the other 2 just in case. I'm like, okay, maybe I will not do the Necro yet again and do some other build. But here, let's go. So I click on this. We're not going to want to look. This is intensive. Look at this table of content. There's just a ton of stuff in here, and it is a very comprehensive guide. That's why I like using the ones at Maxroll. They've done a lot of work, but I'm going to look for a few things at this stage because I haven't chosen my build, so I don't need to know everything about this build. I'm going to read this upper section here. This is the very beginning. I'm just going to flow through these paragraphs. This kind of tells me what to expect from this build. What's happening? What will I like it? Like, does it sound like a gameplay style that I would enjoy? And so kind of reading through these, you know, I kind of looked at this a little bit earlier, but it's got the Necro. It's a summoner, so it's pulling minions.
and it's doing shadow damage, and so it's damage over time, which are both things actually I would be really interested in. I think damage over time is going to be very important for bossing, so I am looking forward to that. So this looks good. The next thing I'm going to look at is, if you look down here at the table of contents, they usually have a button here that says gameplay. This will describe how you actually carry out the gameplay. So this is another thing to look at. And as I read usually these, even just the beginning of it, I kind of get a feel. Okay, so this one, like if you look at it, they're laying down a curse, so that's going to be like an area effect down there. Then they're letting my minions go after it. Then finally, the golem's gonna be directed where I want it, and then I can do some additional damage when I use the corpse tendril to pull them all in, and then corpse explosion to basically bring it all together and do a lot of damage myself. So that sounds like solid gameplay. There's a lot more here, but that at least gets me what I'm really looking for. Now, one other thing that I do want to look at, especially if I'm going to be comparing these against multiple, is that I want to see the gameplay footage. So usually up here, I actually would have scrolled past it. It doesn't seem to have one. There's usually video up here, and I'll show you on one of the other ones so you can see it. But you click that video, and it'll actually show you just the gameplay, so you can see when the class finally comes together, and you can get a visceral feel, like, hey, that looks like what I want to do. That looks like exactly the game style I want to play. That looks like a blast. Let's do it. That's a good thing to check off. This one doesn't do it. I look down. There's a video guide down at the bottom. It's a lengthy, like, how to build this, and kind of walks through more or less what's on this guide, but it does not have gameplay footage. So that was kind of a bummer. So let's go back, and I'll just pick one of the other ones so we can see that, because I do want you to check. So you've chosen you've chosen your class, you've chosen your 3 that you're thinking about, and now we're digging into the little bit of the content to see what we like. So let's go and let's look at the Bone Spear Necro. I know this probably has gameplay footage. So as I come down here, it's sort of, all right, I still don't see it. Oh, that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be 2 in a row that we don't have it. So the Necro doesn't get gameplay footage. This is the video guide again, so I can see if the footage is in here. And sometimes they do; they'll throw it at the beginning. But no, this is looking not so good. So yeah, so sometimes you'll come through and you can scan through and actually see the gameplay. Okay, uh, okay. So he's walking around. There's no minions in this. Sad. He's angry with boats. I don't know. Is that really the best we're gonna get for gameplay? Okay, and then he's exploding all the things. But this looks more like a demonstration. It's not actually how the gameplay would work. So that's kind of sad. So that's 2 in a row that do not have the gameplay. Let's check out Twisting Blades Rogue. That usually okay. So this is kind of blowing up in my face a little bit, but yeah, right here. So Twisting Blades skills showcase. So this is what I'm looking for, and a lot of these do have it, depending on the class that you chose. For some reason, Necro doesn't, but we'll look at that. But so he plays through it, and we can even make this full screen. Yeah, so you can kind of see what the play looks like. There's a lot of mobility. It's moving through, and you can kind of decide, hey, is that a fit for you and what you're looking for? So that's it. At that point, if you've done this and you've gone through a few, you kind of have a good feel for what you are looking for, what feels right, and probably can make a choice on your build. Now, there is one key thing. If you choose these builds, as I've mentioned before, there's a lot to them, but if you choose to go through the build, sometimes the pieces that you need to make the build complete just don't they're not available early on. And not just like at 25 when you start dropping aspects, but like not till World Tier 4 kind of level stuff. And it can be absolutely mind numbing to like put all this time into the build and not have it come together. So what you're going to want to do to kind of sidestep that is you're going to want to look at go back to this tier list again, and you're going to want to look at leveling tier list. So leveling tier list gives ranks for different builds that you can kind of focus on in the early game. So this will help you. The ones that are S tier are generally just letting you level up faster. You can rush to get to level 50 and get to that World Tier 3 or that capstone dungeon in World Tier 2. So you can finally get into World Tier 3 and actually start opening up where you finally have access to most of the aspects. You're dropping better gear and you can start putting a real build together. So as you're choosing these, again, you just want to pick these S or A tiers, probably my recommendation. Find the class that you're looking for. So this one has Necrobone. If you can find one that's close, like if you know, like the other one they were doing the Infinite Mist, that might be more of a blood type necro, so I might choose this. But this also has a beginner guide for Bone Spear. So if I chose Bone Spear back there, then I could easily choose this, and that's a good overlap. So if there is an overlap, I'll pick it, but sometimes it doesn't really matter. You're going to just basically want to level quickly and get strong enough that you feel like you can wipe through mobs and get those levels that you need. and get through the game to where you can finally get the real drops. And then you want to switch over. So you can choose something that's completely different if you want. And I've done that numerous times. I didn't until I chose a class or chose a build in World Tier 3, and then I even chose a different in World Tier 4 because I knew I could get the stuff to build that, or I wanted to try something different. And so those are good markers for when you might change up your build. But choose the one that is going to let you level up through and then move through really fast. There's a lot in these materials, and you'll find that there's actually different things in the leveling guide than there are in the end game guide. Just note that some of the like cool stuff like the Paragon boards or even how you progress up in power is usually guide stuff that I look at a lot, but it's for min-maxing, so you won't see it in a leveling guide. But a leveling guide, you also see things on like why you're placing the early skill points in this order, what to do if you can't find the codex of power that you need or the gear that you need, other tips on leveling in general. They have more complete guides on speeding up your leveling. So that can help a ton. The other thing, if you're going to be using this and you start finding, hey, I'm in Maxroll a lot, they have an ability to actually upgrade to a subscriber. It's $2 a month or $20 for the year. It is crazy worth it if you're actually going to be following guides because it gets rid of all the stupid ads. And the ads get really annoying, especially if you're trying to, like, if you have dual monitor set up and you're trying to play on one and you're loading the other one, you get this like video running all the time. It's pulling resources from your game. Well worth the $2. Even if you just test it for 1 month and see if you like it, or see if you like using builds or build guides at all, then that's a good thing to do. And lastly, just make sure that you actually are enjoying and understanding the build. At any point, you can actually change up, especially in endgame. You can switch as long as the class is the right class and has many builds that you like. It's relatively easy to switch between those, and just make sure you're enjoying the game that you want. Now, if you're looking at your next build because you're thinking about building an alt character after your main, then make sure you check out this guy where I go through all the things you want to make sure you have in place before you start your alt.